Some moments don't end loudly. They fade, quietly. This is one of those moments. The apartment always felt slightly different after midnight. Not darker, not colder, just thinner. Like everything that had weight during the day slowly dissolved into something lighter, something harder to hold. The sounds stretched out. The refrigerator hum lingered longer than it should. The walls carried a faint echo, like they were remembering something that had already passed. That's when I started noticing it. At first, it didn't feel like anything worth holding on to, just a small shift in how things moved, a message that arrived a little later than usual, a pause that stretched slightly longer than it used to. It was easy to ignore, because nothing had actually stopped. Everything was still there. There had been a rhythm before. Not something defined, not something planned, just a quiet pattern that built itself over time. Messages that arrived without effort, conversations that didn't need direction, words that didn't feel like they were being chosen carefully. They just happened. It became part of the background, something steady, something expected, and because it was always there, I never thought about what it would feel like if it changed. I thought it would stay the same. That was the assumption I didn't realize I was making. Days moved the way they always do, small routines stacking on top of each other, work, movement, small moments that passed without being noticed. But underneath all of that, there was always that quiet thread. A message would come. It always did, until it didn't feel the same. The first change was almost invisible, a reply that felt shorter, not abrupt, not distant, just lighter, like something had been removed from it that I couldn't name. I read it once, then again, not because I didn't understand it, but because it felt like something was missing. Still, I didn't question it. There was no reason to. People have days, people get distracted, things shift, so I let it pass. But the next time, it happened again, and then again. Not in a way that drew attention, just enough to change the shape of things. The pauses stretched, the replies softened, the rhythm lost its timing, and slowly, without noticing when it started, I began to fill the gaps. A message sent a little earlier, a follow-up where there hadn't needed to be one before, a question to keep something moving that used to move on its own. It didn't feel like effort, not at first. It just felt like continuing something that already existed. But the more I paid attention, the more I started to see it clearly. The space was changing, not all at once, just gradually, like a room being emptied piece by piece while you're still inside it. The walls were still there, the structure hadn't changed, but something essential had been taken out, and I kept adjusting to it without saying anything, because there was nothing to say. There hadn't been a moment, no clear shift, no reason to point to, just a slow movement away from something that had once felt close. I thought it would settle, that whatever this was, it would pass on its own, that the rhythm would return without needing to be questioned. So I stayed in it, kept responding, kept reaching, kept holding the shape of something that no longer held itself. Until one night, without planning to, I stopped. The phone was in my hand, the screen was open, a message half-formed, and for a moment I just looked at it. There was nothing wrong with it, nothing that needed to be changed, but something about it felt unnecessary, like I was adding something that no longer had a place. So I didn't send it. I set the phone down instead, and waited. Not intentionally, not as a test, just to see what would happen if I didn't fill the space this time. The room felt quieter than usual. The lamp cast the same soft light across the walls, the same shadows stretched across the floor. Everything looked the same, but something felt different. The absence of that small action changed the entire atmosphere. I expected something, a message, a question, even something small, but nothing came. The night passed slowly. The refrigerator hummed, the pipes shifted, the air stayed still, and the phone didn't move. The next morning, it didn't feel like anything important, just a missed moment, something that could easily be explained, so I didn't think about it. But I didn't reach out either. Not that day, not the next. And as the days continued, something became clear. The silence wasn't new. It had already been there. I had just been covering it, filling it, smoothing it out so it didn't feel like anything had changed. But once I stopped, it stayed. It held its shape. It didn't shift. It didn't respond. It simply existed. And in that stillness, I started to see everything differently. The way I had been the one to begin things, the way I had carried the rhythm forward, the way the effort had slowly moved in one direction without ever being named. Not dramatically, not obviously, just enough to go unnoticed. Until now. There's a kind of distance that doesn't feel like distance at first. It feels like normal. It feels like something slightly off that you can't quite explain. And because it isn't clear, you don't question it. You adjust to it instead. You move around it. You fill the gaps. You keep things going until one day you stop. And when you do, you realize there was nothing holding it together. I thought they would notice. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the silence itself, not the absence of messages, just the quiet expectation that at some point something would shift, that the stillness would be felt on both sides, that the change would be recognized. But it wasn't. And that's when it became clear. Because shared silence has weight, it carries meaning, it creates awareness. But this silence didn't feel shared. It felt one-sided. It felt complete on its own, like something that had already settled long before I stepped back. I didn't reach out again, not because I was waiting, not because I expected anything to change, but because there was nothing to continue. The pattern had already ended. I had just been standing inside it longer than I realized. And when I stepped out, nothing followed. The apartment felt different now. Not thinner, not hollow, just still. The same walls, the same quiet hum of the refrigerator, the same soft light stretching across the floor. But the space felt clearer, like something that had been blurred had finally come to focus. The phone stayed where I left it, face down now, not because I was avoiding it, but because there was nothing to check, nothing to expect. Just the quiet presence of something that had already revealed itself. I stood by the window that night. The street outside was empty. The distant lights reflected faintly against the glass. For a moment, I could see my own outline in the reflection, still, unmoving, part of the quiet. I thought they would notice, but what I understood now was simpler than that. Some things don't need to be acknowledged to be real. They just need to be seen. And once they are, there's nothing left to question. Sometimes distance isn't created by silence, it's revealed by it. And once it's visible, it doesn't need anything else. It simply remains. Sometimes understanding comes too late. If this story felt familiar, you're not alone. Thank you for listening. We'll continue next time.